to talk to you about some of the native trees and shrubs that I have, and some I don't currently own but highly suggest. And these are species that will not only work in Westchester, but for the most part in New York State as a whole. And I can't recommend these enough for people, wildlife, and land use stability in uncertain times. Alright, let's start big to small. American elm. When you get the right cultivars, like Princeton, they are highly resistant to the diseases facing them right now, and there's a mature one. American persimmon is an investment tree that gets nice big size, provides amazing fruit for people and wildlife. A large, really amazing tree is the American chestnut, for people, for wildlife, for the land. And it's important to plant these straight Americans right now because the blight-resistant Americans are going to be available to the public probably by the end of this year, if not the start of next. A major host for a lot of wildlife species is the black cherry. Large, mature tree, grows fast, goes straight if you don't have a lot of width, and can colonize an area pretty quickly. One of my favorite of the large shrubs, it's Viburnum lentago nannyberry. It's one of the viburnums that aren't susceptible really to the viburnum leaf beetle, so makes beautiful white clusters of flowers, amazing for pollinators, great in the landscape. Inkberry, Ilex glabra, makes an amazing evergreen privacy hedge, also feeds wildlife if you can get a male. High bush blueberry feeds people, wildlife, can be used even as a hedge. Starts up small, can get pretty tall. Amazing shrub. One of my favorites is American crabapple, Malus carinaria. It's one of the only native apples to the country, and it's the only one native here. Makes food for people. You can use the tart apples to make jams and jellies, but feeding wildlife throughout the winter, which is really important. The fruits mature and will stay on. They can even find them under the snow. Makes an amazing hedge. Great habitat for nesting birds as well. Sometimes forgotten about are our native roses. They make a big shrub. They come in climbing, they come in thornless, they come in your regular thorny pink, and the rose hips are really nutritious for people, and that's if you can get them before the birds. It's really hard to get yellow flowers on a shrub, but shrubby St. John's wort, Hypericum prolificum, makes a really nice display of yellow flowers in the summertime, and it gets to be a nice size for landscaping. It's not too small, not too big. Both the red and black chokeberries make really nice landscape plants, really beautiful fall foliage. People don't really eat them, but this thing had berries on it last week, and the birds have already eaten them. One of my favorite of the large shrubs, small trees, is American plum. It makes a really great thicket. It will spread and sucker, or you can train it to be a single stem like this one. Makes food for people, amazing habitat for wildlife, food for the wildlife, and it's a really pretty spring flower. American red raspberry is probably the tastiest of the native shrubs we can find, not just for us, but for the animals too. You gotta beat them to it. Makes a nice big thicket. Willows can be as big as the big black willow as a tree, or a large shrub like this one is pussy willow, Salix discolor, and it'll maybe get a little bit bigger than this. Incredible host for a lot of pollinators. Likes wet feet. Flowering dogwood is one of those famous landscaping trees. It's native, makes beautiful flower. You can get it in white or pink. Matures slowly, fits well in a landscape. All of the smaller shrubby dogwoods are really nice for thicket forming. Throw that in with your wet feet plants, and you'll make a nice hedge for wildlife. The berries, as well as the flowers, help feed them. If you can wait, our native azaleas are worth it. They get to be a good size and can be used in a landscape setting. And they provide early flowers for earlier pollinating insects. Clethra alnifolia, or summer sweet, one of the most popular ones. They smell amazing when they're in flower, bring in tons of pollinators. You can get them in cultivars where you get a little bit of a pink flower to it, and it's actually shown no reduction in pollinating insect activity when compared to the wild type. Wild type definitely gets taller. Find a wet spot with some shade and they'll be very happy. Some bigger trees, the swamp white oak, also wet feet. It's an investment tree, will grow fast and live long. Very high up on the scales is how many pollinators and as a host it can support. American redbud gives it that nice pink flower in the spring that we all love. Works well in a landscape setting, but it does get bushy, so you might want to put it towards the back where it's got a little bit of room to stretch out. You can see leafcutter bees have been loving it. A tree forgotten about sometimes is hackberry, Celtis occidentalis. Likes its wet feet also, grows to be a nice, big, strong tree. White cedar, Thus occidentalis, is a really nice landscaping tree. Grows slow, but it's our native as opposed to the ones you usually see in the landscape, which are hybrids or mixtures of Asian strains. If you have a colder locale where you are, then white spruce will continue to do well. It's going to get kind of too hot down here. We're at the pretty much southern limits down lower Westchester, and they can start to show heat stress. But if you're in the northern part of the county, or especially the state, this is an amazing tree. It's a great replacement for Colorado blue spruce. A tree for literally anywhere, red cedar, Juniperus virginiana, will grow and provide berries in the wintertime for waxwings, cedar waxwings. That's where they get their name, as well as providing cover for a lot of other wildlife. Hardy tree. If you like the American plum but have a little bit more of a sandy area, beach plum is a great way to get a native thicket, feeding people and wildlife. Rhus aromatica, or aromatic sumac, if you don't get the cultivar, actually gets pretty tall. The cultivar grow low stays really small, but this makes a nice habitat. For some serious thicket action, American hazelnut and beaked hazelnut give us food, give the wildlife food, can really make an area with wet feet habitable to wildlife in a quick amount of time. It's fast growing, grows thick, and delicious if you can beat the wildlife to it.